do blind men ever get the beer goggles? Assuming they do, does the seeing eye dog ever offer a second opinion? I think we better pass in this one, Stevie. You could feel her face, but I could smell her snatch. Woof, woof, holla, thank you very much. Oldie but goodie. I gave up drinking beer this summer because it got embarrassing. Spending so much time hungover, recycling, empty reminders of my lushiness as entire Rocky marathons on AMC pass me by. Can I get another holla for more unapologetic, shame-free, lush-littered material? You're welcome. Holla. Thank you very much. Whenever I'm out with my 3 kids, without my wife, which is often, because she works as a nurse and she works nights, and checking newborns for vital signs, which makes me feel like a total narcissist because all I check for is for retweets before I got banned from Twitter for insisting the Chinese have resisted Wuhan lab investigations more than Aquafresh. And whenever I'm out with my 3 kids, I always hear, "You've got your hands full." And I'll say, if any of my 4 books, Resist This, Controlling My Kids of Comedy, The Great American Jew Novel, or Dude All Dad Does Jokes, in addition to my upcoming 2, Waste of Height and The Coachitarian Comedian, if all 6 books ever result in my wife agreeing to an open marriage with Susan Sarandon, because I'm finally have some financial security in my life where I'm no longer so broke where my Hebrew name is under judicial review, as long as I have some semblance of fucking breathing room. As a result of my hard work and endless dedication and unyielding belief in me, and some agent has the ball sometime this fucking century to represent me and push my books hard, a long time, all the time, in particular the Coachitarian Comedian, which should be done soon enough before my birthday, ideally in April. If that happens, and my wife finally agrees to an open marriage with Susan Sarandon, then my hands will be full. Holla! Thank you very much! So it's my impersonation of Eminem and Dr. Dre discussing the merger between LinkedIn and Microsoft. This is Dr. Dre. Hey, Slim. Microsoft paid $4.5 billion for LinkedIn. And Eminem says, word! LinkedIn is lamer than ever, yo. Holla. Thank you very much. So, Super Bowl starts in an hour, and I really am not, I'm going to have a very hard time stomaching the sight of, like, Biden with a mask in the freaking VIP booth. I'm not dealing with it very well. So I had to do something here to uplift my spirits. Watching a retrospective on YouTube for Super Bowl Sunday, Giant Super Bowl Appreciation Day, didn't help out my mood too much because my kids had no fucking interest whatsoever. So that was beyond depressing. Although I will never forget when Eli ruined Tom Brady's perfect season. I was living in Brooklyn at the time, Park Slope to be exact, and I remember running through the streets of Brooklyn yelling, Eli for president! Eli for president! Ha! Thank you very much! That was great. Obviously, this was ages ago. Back when Lena Dunham had much skinnier arms and wasn't so full of herself. Can I get a holla for dumping on Lena Dunham, never losing its shelf life or never becoming played out as long as her encouraged frumpy look on Instagram continues to go viral every time for some fucking vacocked, strange, awful reason. Holla! Thank you very much! So my daughter's birthday is coming up. She'll be 10. I can't handle it. I already call my sister. Well, fucking moron! My daughter! I already called my daughter and her brother, Archer USA, who's a freaking whiz on the Snow Screamer sled, who I now call Featherfoot Flying. Holla! Thank you very much! I call them teenagers in love because they already have legs that go on for miles and miles. And literally, my daughter's about to turn 10. When she was 7, I came up with this joke. Matilda, put some undies. This is her coming out outside the bubble. Matilda, put some undies on already. So the Chinese underworld has far less to say. Holla! Thank you very much! So my daughter's into American Girl dolls. Now, they do look a little creepy because they look very lifelike. However, they do encourage imaginative play. And that's a good thing. Because it leaves Daddy time to write and perform more jokes for free and provide a greater wedge gap between his wife, who I now live to piss off, and I'll go to the deli and I'll say, yeah, so guys, get any Tic Tacs you want. Anything. Actually, get anything that would trigger Mama. And my son's like, well, how about the mint? I go, are you guys playing like virtual post-COVID games to spin the bottle already? I know girls are like flashing their freaking poontang at like 8, but I think it's a tad premature. Go with the orange. Best tasting flavor. Never goes out of style. Like mounting El the Body McPherson. Hey now. So, by the way, a little tip. She has a sister, and there's like a video. I think it's on YouPorn, X videos. I would check it out. I mean, if you're into long legs, and if you're ever into El the Body McPherson, which I know most guys were. So anyway, I found out from my mom today that she didn't want to get this awesome tent setup that's for this American Girl doll. It's actually from Australia. So it's impossible for me not to think that my mom was being passive aggressive. Again, knowing that my wife is originally from Australia. And we wanted to get married there. Yeah, my mom shot it down. She calls me on the phone. She says, son, Australia's a very long flight from New York. And your father doesn't love you that much. So I made a compromise. I said, babe, assuming we have a boy one day, instead of hiring a rabbi for the kid's circumcision, we'll hire Crocodile Dundee. Just so we could hear a room full of Jews say, now that's a knife. You could chop it all off with that thing. Holla! Thank you very much! So, I started brainstorming titles today for a new story in relation to American Girl dolls. And so far, my favorite titles are Losing That Cuddly Feeling and The Do-It-All Doll. And it's a story about an American Girl doll that comes to life to American Girl by Tom Petty on vinyl after Matilda, my daughter, takes an extra strength melatonin gummy dipped in eucalyptus oil made in China. Holla! Thank you very much! Oh, that's right. The even better title is The Never Ending Bedtime Hour. Holla! Thank you very much! Headline hookers are my forte. So I can't wait to write that story. I had a conversation with my dad today. It was really nice. And I didn't speak with my mom today. Well, I did. We had the American Girl doll conversation. And she's going to get my daughter a couple of horse riding lessons. I live in horse country, and that's nice. I'm not trying to depreciate it, but just the entire spiel. My mom said, well, I'm against dolls. And like this idea that you can't be a feminist and play with dolls is just completely ridiculous. First off, the Barbie doll was actually based on a German prostitute, like doll line. Look it up. There's a documentary on Hulu about it. But the founder of Barbie was like a Jewish, feminist. And she did have a job. She wasn't like a complete coke whore. And so she's got a skinny waist and big tits. Whoop-de freaking do. I'm not complaining about it. I'm not complaining about the complete absence of clothes on my daughter's Barbie collection. But I am happy about how my daughter enjoys her Barbie play and she's able to get lost in La La Land. And I could think of more destructive uses of your time. And I got lost in La La Land playing with my G.I. Joe figures forever, way past the acceptable age. Banging Gung Ho against Cobra Commander, treat him like his gimpy bitch underling in Pulp Fiction. And I wrote $4, and I got my TV writing break. And all those hacks that I went to high school with never took a fucking creative chance in their life, never had a creative impulse in their fucking life, never turned on anyone by their mere presence alone in their fucking life. People that became dentists and, come with glamorized gunky teeth cleaner, whoop-de fucking do. All these people, who went prematurely bald and nothing to fucking live for. I mean, deadweight conversationalist children. People that think they have holier than thou opinions that people actually give a shit about regarding politics when they've done nothing but put their balls on the line for 4 straight years while trying to make a writing career happen for their family. All they do is, how do you look yourself in the mirror by regurgitating talking points in the Washington Post? I really want to know. I really do. And so I love imaginary play. And imaginary play has led to every good thing in my life. When I met my wife on Barry Dill's balcony overlooking Central Park, if I had not taken the deep dive into imaginary land and latching on to the idea of writing TV scripts for a living for shows such as Family Guy and Always Sunny, I never would have had anything remotely fucking interesting to say to my future wife at the time that produced the most beautiful children known to mankind in this God's green earth. Best 3 Coach-tearing comedy buds I could have ever asked for or envisioned in a million freaking years. And at the time, I was working on a Family Guy spec script. So I had that to talk about. Me hitting my quote at City Search, not so much. I mean, I did have some decent City Search jokes, such as, I've evolved plenty since then. I talked about how City Search is the #1 city guide used by gay men in New York City to search to find out who gives the best facial. It's a little hacky. I don't know why I'm regurgitating old C+ material, but it wasn't like completely horrific either. So, and I met my wife on Barry Diller's balcony. Now, Barry Diller, for those who don't know who the fuck I'm talking about, he became this internet mogul, but prior to that, he was a movie mogul. He was the guy behind Fox. He's also the guy that was responsible for greenlighting Married with Children, Simpsons, and Living Color. And that was the best lineup of all time. I've been showing my kids some clips recently from Living Color. And the ugly Wanda girl, played by Jamie Foxx, is still really, really funny. And what's his name? Tommy Davidson? He still sucks. He's still a squirmy nerd. I know he knows martial arts and he uses surfing metaphors. But I read his book. He's fucking boring. You should be lucky he has a career. So, but the Wayans brothers, they're all hilarious. They're great. True story. Not a joke here, but back in the day, they had so many kids, and they would go to bed. Not because they were exhausted, but they would go to bed because it was the only way to distract themselves from their starving belly. It was like fucking Yom Kippur for them, 24/7. But they also used to dissect films. Keenan was always a director saying, okay, so what's funny about this scene in an airplane, which I think is great. So I like to believe that my children have become beneficiaries of the same common education, which would explain why they're constantly cracking daddy up. And why my son called me a moron. But with the perfect timing and with the perfect hint of sarcastic loaded might, and it's always hilarious and it always kills me. But the point of this episode is not to give a a highlight reel, a sizzle reel of my children's best one-liners. But to share a piece about dolls called Disorder in the Dollhouse, which originally was on the Good Men Project, and they took it down. I had to find this out during Christmas Day. Fucking brutal. In Delaware, no less. I'm always like defending my Jewish identity there. And this Christmas was no different. So I think I'm going to feel good about myself, read a nice post that has lots of great jokes. And it got a lot of love on my blog first. Good Men Project, we posted it. And then someone complained and got their panties in a bunch. And then they said, "Well, I don't know what side you're on." Whatever the fuck that means. This is our country these days. So, again, I'm not enthralled to watch a Super Bowl this year since democracy died. I don't really care so much about a lot of these culture shifter players anymore, knowing how much their pussies have been spewing lies and just dirty, awful divisiveness, bailing out fucking Antifa for 4 years. But I'm just being depressing right now. I don't want to focus on negative. Let's get back to positive, funny, happy lands. Okay? But also, I mean, football is never, all professional sports are never gonna be the same. But at the very least, YouTube has old clips where I can watch the Royal Rumble that Ric Flair won. I think it was in '92, an hour, by the way. 30 wrestlers in a Royal Rumble. I had no idea that a Royal Rumble, the guy who wins the Royal Rumble is able to compete for WrestleMania, for the belt, for the championship, heavyweight championship. I had no idea. There's one guy, Steven Karplus. I used to go to his house to watch WrestleMania. I probably saw like 2 of them. I don't know why I never pushed my father for it. I mean, it was a little pricey, but we could have afforded it. But I'm not going to come across as an ungrateful cunt, because it's not as if I had to take on 3 jobs to pay for college, so I could try to maintain pace with my Hawaiian pothead roommates, who's actually half Chinese, half Polish, related to Bette Midler, actually comes from money in Hawaii, which makes sense, which would explain his shriekish, yentish element to his personality. Where like all I heard freshman year was, "This weed sucks. I don't want to pay another penny for it." But he made up for it, and he had his brother smuggle stuff in peanut butter jars sophomore year, and that stuff was phenomenal. It wasn't Maui Wowie, but it was like $75 night stuff, where literally after like one hit, you'd watch the entire Pink Floyd The Wall and feel it went by like that in a second, and you'd feel like you comprehend everything and every nuance ever uttered by Roger Waters, pre him coming out as a full-blown anti-Semite, but not really. So, here we go. So, imaginary play has done wonders in my life. And so I resent the fact when my mom associates that with, well, if you play with dolls, that means that, you're just going to be another, gold digging, vacant, whore. And also, like, what's wrong with gold diggers? They're very transparent in what they do. And what's so bad with being a homemaker? So I resent that as well. Being a stay-at-home female homemaker of sorts. I mean, obviously, I have greater aspirations past that, which I convey in the Great American Jew novel. Again, a great anti-Semitic qualifier. But, it reminds me of an old joke. I said the New York Times, they do everything in their power to completely shit on any homemaker, hearth enhancer, mother that's out there today. They'll say, I think there's like bullshit statistic where they said that moms in the 70s, moms today, working moms today, spend more time playing with their kids than stay-at-home moms in the 70s did. And I remember reading this thinking, so were stay-at-home moms in the 70s just sleeping on the job from being slipped too many quaaludes while dreaming of Bill Cosby's family-friendly dentist drilling material of yesteryear? Thank you very much! And also, Seinfeld, again, I don't want you smirking for 5,000 fucking years! I'm being too harsh. I don't want you smirking for at least 2 more years until you give me a legitimate reason for why you were completely fucking oblivious to Bill Cosby's 5 decades worth of rape under his resume, okay? Where were your powers of observation then, Jerry? Holla! Thank you very much! But I'm glad Jerry has his Porsches and that he's able to auction them off for charity once in a while. I think the last one they auctioned off, I think he made about a couple of mil. I just hope that half those proceeds went to Larry's kids. Holla! Thank you very much! So here we go. Chapter 1. Disorder in the dollhouse. The doors are coming off the hinges! Warren Zevon lives again! Holla! Thank you very much! If my son played with dolls, I think I'm going to get the Kelly LeBrock one using weird science on eBay for my own personal stash. John Hughes lives! Holla! Thank you very much! If my son played with dolls, I think it's a good thing I'm not a black comedian trying to downplay my ties to the hip-hop gay mafia. Holla! Thank you very much! That was a blatant Kevin Hart reference. He backed out of hosting the Oscars. After some old tweet was dug up about if he discovered that his son was playing with dolls, he'd break the dollhouse on his bed. He'd break the dollhouse on his head or something like that. Pretty hacky stuff. And for the record, I'm not a Kevin Hart hater. Just a short on laughs spectator. Holla! Thank you very much! If my son played with dolls, I tell him to wrap seaweed around peckerwood before making his move on Polynesian Barbie. If my son played with dolls, we'd skip watching Porky's. It was an overrated comedy. Anyway, instead I'd push 9 to 5 in front of our viewing list. My son could do worse than becoming a Dolly Parton impersonator. Whitney Houston, not so much. Greatest Star-Spangled voice of all. Rest in peace, babe. Holla. Thank you very much! If my son played with dolls, I'd think, great. He'll save me a fortune on sports chem. Plus, I'll have extra time to write more best-selling books because school plays or an annual production. If my son played with dolls, I'd think, great. Now when my dad asks, what's Arthur going to eat at the Greek diner with his friends after the ball game, I'll say, a turkey melt, assuming he's got some extra wiggle room to slip into his leotards. If my son played with dolls, I'd have him own it and dress up as the flaming Human Torch for Halloween. On second thought, Mr. Fantastic also has a fabulous connotation to his name, though his hot wife, Susan Storm, is no Liza Minnelli. If my son played with dolls, I'd think, touchdown! Now I don't have to talk shop at Pop Warner with other football dads from New England. I still think Eli is a bigger pimp than Brady, and Gisele's like 80 in model years. Holla! Thank you very much! If my son played with dolls, I think banging my G.I. Joe figures together was much gayer. Especially when I had gung-ho Mandel and bitch slap Cobra Commander like he was his gimpy bitch in Pulp Fiction. Tarantino lives again. Holla! Thank you very much! If my son played with dolls, I think what a relief. For a moment, I thought he'd be destined for malign misery and turn to just another ordinary slut in a straitjacket dad like me. If my son played with dolls, I think big deal. Playing with a sex doll after he blooms under his fruit of the looms is way more deprived pathetic. Let's not make my son into a Japanese anime enthusiast just yet. Ronnie lives! Holla! Thank you very much! If my son played with dolls, I'd move my family to my wife's native homeland of Australia. We'd start getting my son to compete in Ironman competitions sooner rather than later, so he could become the Aussie superior to Bruce Jenner. And for the record, Bruce Jenner was not asexual when he was married to Kris Jenner, although I know for a fact Bruce back then was definitely able to stay erect longer after he convinced Kris to cut her hair short so she could look more like a dolled up Ralph Macchio. What Gen X dads understand? Holla! Thank you very much! If my son played with dolls, I'd join him for some double team action when he was playing around with his sister's WWE divas. Ronda Rousey. I could live with that. Later in life, I don't see my son choking one out on her behalf. This is the Do It All Dad Year podcast. Dad-friendly entertainment for you and me. What Gen X dads understand. Controlling our kids' economy can make our kids great again. My 3 fuss-free kids, 99.9% of the time, are living proof of it. You have kids, encourage their imaginative play as much as you can. It's done wonders for me, and I know it will provide empowered, awesome, kick-ass rock and roll moments for them too. And I'll talk to you guys soon.